Hi there. Welcome to our second episode of our marketing automation conversation series. And today I'm joined by our fantastic project manager, Martijn Knoops.
Thank you.
My name is Marco, and I'll be picking his brain and we'll be talking about everything, and maybe also the industry of healthcare and specifically. Martijn, we've known each other for quite a few years now,
Yes.
but maybe for the audience it would be good if you would introduce yourself.
Okay,
First.
I'm Martijn, I'm 32 years old and I work as a project manager at Dignify. And yes, Marco, we know each other already for a long time.
Yeah.
I know that we have been on high school together.
High school, yes, we saw each other frequently. Football games.
Football games, yes. And we
KFC Genk, best
started-
team in the world.
Yeah, indeed. And we started working together, of course, at Saligent. And I remember that I had to pick you up with my car.
Oh yeah, that's right. When I did my internship at Saligent.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. So for the audience, I didn't have a car back then. I didn't have a license actually. I was still pretty young, and Martijn was so kind to pick me up every morning.
Yeah, you were doing your internship, I
Yeah,
think, and
yeah.
I was just working at Saligent. And,
Yeah. It's funny years
a nice
later.
time I have, indeed.
It's funny how the world works, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, right? So when you first started, I actually remember when we had the first conversations to see if you were interested in joining the company.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It was in the old office.
Yeah, in the old office, and I was working at another web agency actually, and there I met you and Jimmy.
Yeah.
It was already a long time ago, and we started talking.
2018.
Yeah, indeed. And then I think in the evening I sent you a text message to see if there was a possibility that we could be working together. So
it was quite funny because we were talking in the hallway, and it was I think it was 5 meters from where you were working.
Yeah.
And I remember, so we had a few interesting calls, and we were like, okay, we realized that we needed to hire people because actually there was just the three of us. So it was Jimmy, Thomas, and myself.
Yeah.
So you were actually the first one to join. And they were like, okay, we can't do this ourselves, so we need somebody. And then I bumped into you, and we were joking about this. Remember with Jimmy?
Yeah.
Like, Martijn, wouldn't you be interested in joining us? And it was just, at that time, it was very playful, right? It was a joke, but we were serious at the same time. And then when you said the text message in the evening, we're like, okay, let's make it work. And I think a month after,
indeed,
you started working
we started
at
working,
Dignify.
At the open space.
Yeah, the co-working space.
Yeah. And I think it was the three of you, and then you had Dieter, who was actually the first one, and I was the fifth one, I think.
Yeah, I think you almost joined at the same time. Maybe Dieter was a month or a few months before you.
I missed the first kickoff. That's what I know.
Yeah. And then you were there at the second one, right?
Yeah.
The second one you were there, and the third one, of course, lockdown. We can't do a new kickoff this year, but hopefully the second half of this year. We'll see. Normally it's at the beginning.
Indeed.
No, that's quite an interesting coincidence. I still remember that story, and it's not a lie. It's true. And I remember you saying, you were working for local companies predominantly, right? So you're working for, I think KFC Genk you were working for back then. A few other local companies as well. And then I think the first client you started working with at Dignify was
a big one.
Also our biggest client.
Yeah.
So how was the transition from working with local companies to international players? Because it's just, one day from another, you just had to start speaking English all the time.
Yeah, indeed.
And the calls.
Yeah.
How was it?
Completely different, of course. I remember that I was working 2 days at Dignify, and we already had calls with the people from the healthcare company. We had to do a workshop in Portugal.
Yeah, in Lisbon.
Yeah, indeed. So for me that was all new because I was not used to doing that type of things. When you work for local companies, it's just you take your car, you drive to the company, you have a meeting, you go back to the office.
In your mother language.
Yeah, indeed. And you start working, but this is completely different. And also, of course, when you think about the workload and the types of projects you are working on, it's something you cannot really compare. It's really different.
I remember. Do you remember the first time we went on a trip to Lisbon?
Yeah.
So we had to, I think, we were on the flight. Oh, the flight that was cancelled, right?
On Brussels airport, yes.
And we had to fly to Germany, and then from Germany to Lisbon to be there. And it was funny because first we thought, okay, we need to join this meeting, and we have a small slot on which we need to present like 30 minutes. And I think before we arrived, or once we arrived, we found out that we had to do a 2.5 hour presentation, right?
It was a surprise.
Yeah. And at the time, first I was like, okay, Martijn, we can go together, and I think that was pretty easy. We could do this. We were well prepared for that. And then we found out, okay, we need to present for 2.5 hours to a group we hadn't met yet. So it was all the local CRM managers from all different countries. So I think there were, I don't know, almost 20 people there.
Something like
from every country in Europe, right? And we had to present for 2.5 hours.
But I was happy that you were with me.
I remember you were nervous the first time, right?
Yeah, the first time. It
was also in English. And
it's the past few months and years we've done several workshops, and then you get to know those people. You know the business. You are used to speaking in English all the time, so that helps, of course.
So how would you say the transition went? So you were just thrown in there, and I think you
and then you just need to do it. If you need to talk in English all the time, need to get to know the company culture,
the industry as well, because it's very different from for example, traditional retail or publishing or finance or whatever.
All those terms and they use. So but after a few weeks, maybe 2 months, let's say, then you already know the business, you know the people, you know how they work. So then you don't have that much stress anymore if you get a call or you need to do a workshop. So
and that's what I find very interesting, and for the people who don't know Martijn, they will probably won't know, but you rarely see Martijn agitated. He's very relaxed. So would you say you just got used to everything, or do you still experience that level of stress but you don't show it anymore? Because
I don't have that much stress, to be honest. I really try to have my focus and to have a good planning, because that helps, of course, to also have a good night when you go to bed, not that you're thinking about work all the time. And what I also find is important is that sports. So I try to do sports during the week to to keep my mind fresh, let's say. 3 or 4 times a week I take a run, so when I come back from that run I really feel relieved, relaxed. Then I know I'm ready for the next day at work. And indeed. And also, of course, the tools we use, that helps. So we have a lot of good planning tools. I'm maybe also a little bit old-fashioned. I also write some things, but that's just a to-do list I have every day. Things I have to do, I need to...
Sometimes easier to write when you're on a call than to type. And
indeed, and when you have completed a to-do, it's always nice to strike through, of course. So that's how I try to work. And then, of course, we have a good team, so I brief the team actually every morning, and then we have some kind of a planning tool, so I know which tasks they're working on. And once they have completed a task and I know it's ready for testing, then the next day I can test it, and it's really good.
That's something I really, well, obviously we did work together previously, but you're very consistent with that, and I think it's mandatory in the role that you're in, and all the different stakeholders you talk to, because it's not just one team of stakeholders. You talk to people who are in different countries, who speak different languages as well. So it's, you see them digitally, and it's not always ideal because you're on the phone, right? If you see somebody face to face, it's easier to see what they mean. Different cultures, and you're working with different types of teams, right? You have the campaign developers. You have the more data related things, right? The people who are working in the back end. So it's quite interesting to see how you work.
Yeah, indeed, and it's important that you, of course, know where to set your priorities, because if you get a request, everybody thinks that request is most important. But of course, we have a planning, and we need to check internally what's most important. And of course, what helps is the Selligent background. So I know how things work, how a campaign needs to be set up, so I know.
You have the technical baggage.
Yeah. I don't say it's a mandatory to have that, but it helps that you understand how that campaign can work if a country or a company comes with a request to set up a project.
Yeah, and how do you maintain focus? Because it's one thing to write everything down, it's another thing, of course, to execute on that consistently. So how do you make sure that, did you make a pact with yourself to say, okay, once I finish this call, I'm gonna make sure that every to-do is on a list somewhere, I prioritize, or what's your workflow like that?
Yeah, actually I use Trello. That's actually an open source tool. So when I have a call, and after that call I try to list the to-dos of that call in Trello. Yeah. And actually those to-dos are mainly also the tasks for the developers. Okay. So in Trello I have a long list of to-dos for the developers.
Just your scribblings to a digital list?
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. And from there I plan our developers to work on those tasks. So if Trello shuts down, then I have a problem.
Then you need paper and
and I lost a lot of my notes, I think. But hopefully that will not happen.
Yeah. That's good to hear. It's interesting to hear, because that's the one thing that I sometimes find very difficult if you have back-to-back calls. Yeah. And what I find is that if you don't have the time to process the to-dos of the previous call, and with process I mean, just from your scribbling, just put this on a meeting, meeting notes or something like that. That's very important. So I remember that you always make sure that you don't have back-to-back calls all day, so you at least want to have like 20 minutes between the calls to make sure you process this.
Yeah, indeed. If you only have calls during a day, then at the end of the day you have a full mailbox. You didn't have the time to take notes. So then it can get complicated. So I try to plan some time in between to work on it. Yes.
And did you find it difficult because now, of course, we're used to working with clients that are overseas, right? So we're used to working with clients we don't see every day. But of course, as we know, we're living in a very different time now. Some say it will be partly permanent. Some say we will return back to normal, but we don't know yet. But there has been, of course, a difference between having your colleagues around you all the time or working remotely. Did you find difficulties with that, with briefing the team and making sure that you're up to date on what they're doing and setting expectations with the clients?
Yeah, actually not that really. It's easier, of course, when you work together at the office, because then you can go to someone and check how things are going. But now, of course, working remotely means you will have more calls. Yeah. So if I want to know how what the progress is for a certain project, I set up a call with the developer to see if there's anything there that blocks him. So it's increasing the number of calls, but apart from that, I don't see. I did not see any.
Real changes.
Yeah, real changes actually.
Yeah.
No. So.
And then the tool you're using, I thought you told me once that you have different columns to see, is somebody working on something? Are they ready? So it gets to we call it the internal UAT, right? And then you get notified, so you will check it, and then if it's okay, or you process feedback just to see if it's in line with what the client was expecting. You send it to the client, or you send it back to the developer.
Indeed. And then it goes to the client, so he can test. And once the client actually approves the project or the campaign that has been set up, then we can go live and we can close it.
So that's your magic trick, because I always wondered how Martijn leaves no stone unturned, and now I found out. We're just gonna share it with 1 million people. Well, it would be good if 1 million people watch this, but we don't know. Let's see.
We will see.
Maybe if they see your name.
Yeah, I don't know.
A different question, Martijn. We've been doing a lot of projects for healthcare companies the past few years, and we have been witnessing the change that is happening, the shift that is happening, and also maybe a bit of refocus on their side regarding the digital transformation and how they engage with customers and also HCPs, of course. What are you seeing? What's something that really came to mind, without going into too much detail, of course, but what comes to mind?
I think also for healthcare companies, you have actually two important groups. You have the leads, so the potential customers, and your end customers, in this case, your patients.
Yeah, for B2C, right?
Yeah, B2C, when I only focus on B2C, it's important that you have a highly personalized conversation with your patients, because they are using your product, so you want to inform them on a high level.
They're depending on your product and your service.
So they need to be satisfied, of course. If they're not satisfied anymore, they will maybe start looking for other products that they also can use to help them. So that's one main focus. So healthcare companies are focusing on leads, so attracting new potential patients, but on the other hand, they also need to keep their focus on their existing patients, so they keep on using your product.
Yeah, so retention. So it's basically similar to, for example, a SaaS company, right? You want them to, once they subscribe to your product or service, that they keep on coming back.
Yeah.
So do you see them using also the same tactics regarding automation, right? So I can remember a few years ago that most of the companies are doing a lot of manual things, right? Did you see a change there? Big change?
We automated a lot of campaigns actually for healthcare companies. So when you focus, for example, on capturing leads, so attracting leads, then we have fully automated flows. So people just actually leave their email address or their personal data on a pop-in or a landing page, and then they start receiving some emails. Actually, they're part of an email workflow. Maybe not only email, but also SMS. So that's the way we try to attract those leads and try to inform them. And hopefully that way we can transform those leads into patients. That's really important. And email is an important channel, of course, at this moment still the most important. We are also more and more focusing on mobile.
Okay. And SMS or SMS, something else?
And also now implementing new channels like WhatsApp, for example. So that's really interesting to start communicating via WhatsApp. And there you can also have a conversation actually with your patients or leads. So it's not only talking about I'm not only talking about outbound messages, but it's really inbound, outbound, it's a combination.
So it's a two-way conversation instead of just the company saying, here is something we should know.
Indeed.
They can actually engage with the company. So that's very interesting.
That's something new. So we will see how that will evolve in the future. So I'm excited about it.
So definitely for the audience, that's something maybe you should keep them updated. So I know we're working on a project, so we can't say anything about that right now, but we should be able to say something very soon.
Yes.
And so with all the different channels, I think the importance of getting that single customer view is also really crucial. And do you see a focus there for those type of companies now?
Yeah, indeed. So more and more companies are focusing on that. And like you say, we have different teams here at Dignify. So we have campaign developers, but we also have some people we are really specialized in setting up 360 profiles, focusing on data. So that's also something we do for customers. And we see that's really helpful. Not only to, for example, create segments when you try to target people with highly personalized information, but just to keep it also for that high level overview to see what is interesting information information about those patients that the healthcare company doesn't know at that moment. So it can be, for example, that we have more data in Saligen in this case than the healthcare company knows. So that's important that we
track data.
Track data indeed. Give them that overview that they need to also think about future projects that need to be done. So
So what I really found interesting is that we're not just capturing data and helping them attract more leads or onboard new potential customers to customers or loyal customers. Also looking at the data and see what's missing, as you mentioned.
Indeed.
I remember we used a canvas. Was it the data gap canvas?
Yeah, indeed.
Was it called? So maybe you could tell something about that. So what we're doing with other companies, why we're doing that.
Yeah, I know we did that, for example, in a workshop together in Frankfurt. So there we created some kind of a data gap canvas. Where we actually informed all the CRM managers of all countries from which data are you actually missing. So we before that workshop, we shared a set of data with those people to see, okay, this is available on Selligent, this is something we can use to set up campaigns, but tell us what type of data are you actually missing. And it was very interesting to see what the outcome was of that analysis, because that was actually the type of data we had to try to capture from those leads and those patients.
So that data also generated a lot of ideas around, okay, how can we bridge that gap? Because it's not just, nobody wants to, or you shouldn't collect data you don't intend to use, and of course you need to have the permission, but it was more around, okay, we're seeing this type of behavior, right? And we first tried to look at, okay, which data pieces are really important in lead generation, lead nurturing, making sure they become a first-time buyer or first-time customer, and how can we increase the chances of them staying with the company for longer, so retention. And that was very interesting because we started with that. Out of that came a few parameters, as you can say, or maybe data pieces of the puzzle we need. And then we looked at, okay, in different regions for different companies, what's missing and what do we need to do to capture that data or to get to know that about a group of customers.
And there were also some surprises. So some people were really surprised that they were missing that data, that it was not available. So it's good to have that analysis from time to time to see what are we actually collecting. Because like you say, you need to focus on the most important data. Not every type of data is that important.
No, and you don't need it all.
No.
And it's also different per company, right? It's not a
you have region maybe.
Per region as well. So if you're working with a company that is international, it could be very different from one region to another. Especially if you're in a mix of B2B and B2C. That's very different from traditional tactics, I think, of marketing automation.
I think data is really important. When you talk about marketing automation, everything starts with data.
Absolutely.
You can create a really
Tom is happy to hear that. And we'll have Tom probably in the future on this show as well, on this series. But he's a big fan of that.
Without any data, you are not able to create a report, for example, afterwards. So you always need to, of course, evaluate if that project was well. Was it
and you need goals.
You need goals,
Right. If you don't set goals, your project can never succeed. Right. And that's one big thing I've learned, and that's one thing that we also make sure we educate our clients on, that from the beginning, if you're not clear on what the goal is of a project, you shouldn't do that project. And because that's the real foundation, that's the starting point, and if you're not aligned on that, there's no point in doing the project. Then the project is just like a trophy, right? You just want to do something because you have the budget, and also because you want to do a nice project that looks really nice, and eventually you do it, you evaluate, and it didn't bring any ROI or any specific value. So that's one thing we really learned, right?
Yeah, indeed. Evaluate the project and then improve, of course.
Absolutely. And you mentioned a few technologies earlier. So when we're touching on that, on the subject of technology, you've worked with a few platforms, right, over the past few years. And they're getting very sophisticated. The MarTech landscape is getting very saturated and also very, very big. What are you seeing, right? Because there's so many different platforms. What's your idea about that? How should a company approach this? Because they don't know what they need to choose anymore. From your experience, what role does the technology in itself play?
To be honest, I don't think there is really a bad platform. I know you mentioned it, or you talked to me a few weeks ago, and you mentioned it to me that you can only make a bad choice, and I really think that's the case. So depending on what your needs are, you need to make the right choice. I don't say every company needs to work with Selligent or Salesforce or other, or one of those big marketing automation tools. If you're really a small company, like in the past I worked for local web agencies, those small companies, they work with simple tools like MailChimp or HubSpot, and it also worked for them. But of course, when your company is increasing, then a tool like MailChimp will not be sufficient anymore. So then you need to, of course, start looking at other tools. So Yeah.
So it's linked to your maturity as well.
Indeed, yeah.
And so you say, well, I know we talked about this, that there are so many platforms out there and there's no bad platform, there's only a bad choice, right? And that's what you mentioned. But which other factors also play into this? Which other factors are really important? So is this, the expertise of the team, right? So I think that's an important one, but are there others that you're thinking of that's besides the technology in itself is really crucial to the success of a company?
Yeah, technology is important, but also I think it's important that companies have an idea what they actually want to achieve with the platform.
Yeah.
So
like a roadmap.
A roadmap indeed, and also it's not that big companies are mostly working with different types of platforms, and they have data in platform A that maybe needs to be synced with platform B, and then platform B you have a lot of marketing campaigns that capture data. The data needs to go back to platform A. So indeed you have to have a roadmap, a high level idea of what type of projects you want to do, and of course it would be good as a company you have an idea of what do we want to achieve, what is our goal. If you make a choice for a platform and after 2 or 3 months you see already, okay, the platform, we are reaching already the limits of that platform because we did not look in the future, let's say, then of course you made a bad choice.
And I think then usually this is part of a very good RFQ process, right? You do the whole due diligence and you look at all these different things. So you involve stakeholders, you look at the roadmap, right, from a functional point of view or technology point of view, but also from a company point of view, where you want to go through, what the expected growth is like. But I still see a lot of implementations fail, and I don't mean the initial implementation of the platform. It's usually after that, right? And you can work with an external company like an agency who helps you implement the software. But what I find is that as soon as they hand the keys to the client, and a lot of times it goes wrong. And why do you think that is? Because it usually also comes as a surprise for the company, because they're like, we had this 3 month or 6 months sometimes like project to really define what do we need, when do we want it, which vendors do we need to invite, but it still goes wrong after the implementation. And I
think it's expertise, like you say, knowledge of the tool. So for example, like a tool like Selligent, it's easy of course to set up an email. I think you don't need to have that much expertise.
No.
To set up an
it's
email.
Getting easier and easier because you have the visual editor and
But of course there are much more capabilities in Selligent. You can do much more, and that's also what we see when I think about the healthcare companies we work for. We start small, really simple, automated campaigns, and what we are doing right now after 2 or 3 years, that's much more complex. So the Dignify team is also important on that, and we have a lot of knowledge in-house, so we try to use that and inform the customer about the capabilities of a platform. So we say, okay, we really can use that module, for example, to capture leads, for example. And that helps them, of course. And
what I really like is that, and we always say this honestly to clients as well, we don't want to do the things that you can do yourself, right? And I just wonder sometimes where this responsibility lies, because either, and I'm just talking in general, vendors are afraid of being honest with the client to say, okay, you have these type of wishes and you want to subscribe to a platform like ours, but we see that, for example, your marketing team, you only have 3 people. Is it realistic that a few of them will work in the platform full time? Because that's what we notice as well. If you use the platform, for example, twice a week for an hour, you will never become an expert.
No.
And you will never go beyond, setting up very simple emails. And that's why we always say, okay, the things we can automate, the things we can teach you, the things we can template, we want you to do it yourself. Use us as experts to translate your very strategic, very sophisticated things, usually, regarding lead generation, lead nurturing, retention campaigns. Let us help you bring that to life. Let's automate that, because there's no point in us being like the blocking factor that we want to do everything, and you know, it's not fair to clients as well. So you have to be very honest. But I just wonder sometimes, is it that vendors are maybe sometimes afraid to say, you know, this is what we think, right? If you want this to be a success, you either need to hire additional people or train people, or, you know, move people around from IT and then bring them into a marketing technologist role, as we mentioned last time. Or is this something else? Do they tell this to the clients or to the prospects, and the clients, they don't want to listen? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe vendors are also sometimes afraid that they will lose work, let's say. Or
they lose a deal because they say our platform, or they come across as our platform is maybe too complex for you.
Yeah.
But that's in my opinion, it's absurd, because we work with a lot of platforms, right? We work with the big clouds. We also work with sometimes the smaller platforms like a MailChimp, HubSpot. They're not small, but in terms of, you know, if you compare to a big cloud with, you know, different platforms that communicate with each other within that cloud, it's much easier to operate. But if the idea is that a cloud platform, the big marketing clouds, that they're easy to use for everything, I think the whole perception of marketing automation is very wrong, because you're just thinking about email templates.
Yeah, indeed, it's more than that. I know, like, we're actually the bridge between IT and marketing. So marketing has a request. Probably they go to IT to say, okay, which type of data do we have? Can we start working on it? And then we are there to help those two parties to set up the project, actually. And like you say, it needs to be a mix. I think it's good that companies are also able to work on the platform themselves. Like we did.
It's really important.
It's important
to scale, of course.
I know we did some workshops, really trainings to show them how you can easily create an email.
We've done that almost all around Europe and far beyond Europe as well, right?
Yeah, indeed. And of course, it's also helpful for them because you work with those different regions, different languages. If somebody from the country itself, it's easier for them to localize an email than sharing the content with us and do it. So we would lose time doing that. So it actually needs to be a mix. What they can do themselves, perfect, we can check it, we can help you. But when we're talking about more complex things,
structural things,
then an agency probably needs to support.
Maybe because I was wondering, and I've meaning to ask you, if you look back, you know, from the beginning in 2018 when you joined, and I think a few months after Dignify was actually started, what do you think separates us from the bigger or maybe more well-established agencies? Is it things like that we're not afraid to be honest, even if we're speaking to a company, you know, that's massive, a public company, for example? Do you think that's one of the reasons why we are doing what we do right now?
Yeah, I think being honest is most important. It's better to tell the truth to a customer than to lie, because I would also not appreciate that if I was a customer. And what helps us is we have a lot of knowledge in-house and also our flexibility, I think. I know that everybody has when I think about the planning, we're really fully booked, but still there we have the flexibility to switch resources to help customers reach their deadline when we talk about projects. So it's really a mix, and we're a good team, and we also have a lot of fun. If we did not have that much fun, then of course it's also not that easy for me to ask for a developer, please can you do that before that time.
Of course. And the whole concept of fun, of course, changed a bit now. But hopefully, the second half this year we can have some more fun again in person. Speaking about fun, I remember a story, and I'm gonna give you a hint. It's about an electric car and a trip to Prague.
I remember.
Can you share the story with the audience, because it comes up every few months
from time to time.
From time to time.
So I'm the owner of an electric car, and I remember that we had to go to a meeting in Prague. So I picked you up. You are living closely to me actually, and then we had to pick up Thomas, who was actually living a little bit further.
Yeah.
And from there, we actually had to go to Charleroi Airport, but I remember it was in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
So we drove to Thomas's house.
Yeah.
We both stepped out of our car.
Yeah.
We closed my car, and then Thomas came out.
We were picking up the suitcases in the trunk.
Yeah, indeed. And then we were saying, "Hey, Thomas, you were going to drive to Charleroi," and he said, "No, I'm not going to drive."
Yeah.
And he also was not able to go back in his house because
he closed the door.
So I say, "Okay," I was checking my battery level.
Yeah.
It was okay to go to Charleroi, but when we were driving to Charleroi, you were also checking the internet, the website of the airport, and we were having a call.
Yeah, to see if there was a charging station.
Yeah, indeed, and they say, really, no problem, you can do that. So we drive to Charleroi Airport, and when we drive in the parking lot, there was nothing to find.
Yeah.
I remember.
On the flight, you were, very worried, and we were thinking about this, and I think after a while we realized, okay, I think we were in Prague for, was it
3 days?
3 days, 2 nights. Okay, let's not worry about it now. Let's worry about it when we get back. And
but I remember during these 3 days, I really did a lot of research.
Yeah.
What's the most nearby charging station? And we had Laghet, 20 kilometers around that airport. We were able to charge. So else, we had to give a call. Call somebody
somebody had to come pick us up.
So that was the first time I did fast charging my car actually. But I
remember it was cold as well, so it was pretty late when we got back.
Yeah.
And we only had like 20, 25, I don't know how many kilometers we still had on the battery.
It
was very...
we had to be lucky. But that was a good
story. I just remember the moment and that we thought, we were convinced that it was agreed, right, that Thomas would drive.
Yeah.
And that's why we got outside your car. We opened the boot of the car. We were getting our luggage. We were standing there with our luggage. I know we were walking towards his car.
Yeah.
And then the moment that he shut the door behind him, we're like, oh no.
Shit.
Because his wife and his kids were sleeping and he didn't have a key.
Indeed.
And he was like, okay, Martijn, you need to drive.
It's up to you.
It's up to you.
But we made it.
We made it in the end. We made it in the end.
And it never happened again until now. So.
No, but you sometimes still get teased about driving an electric car.
Of course.
But you were a trendsetter, right? You were very early.
We will see, and maybe in the future somebody else will also buy an electric car.
Yeah, exactly. And then they can drive.
Yeah, let's hope.
That's a good story. Maybe to finish off this episode, because you have a lot of experience, with project management and with working with teams remotely on our side now, but also on the client side. Is there any last piece of advice you want to give to the audience, especially now in this digital era where everything is changing, and maybe there are some things that for us it's second nature now, it's normal, but for others maybe it's not that easy to transition into. Something you can share with the audience?
I think when you want to work as a project manager in a marketing automation agency, it's important that you are able to keep focus on some tasks you really need to do. It's important for everybody, but especially for project manager, I think. And you need to be structured, and you need to work in a structured way.
Is this something you can learn, or is it something that needs to be...
I think you can learn it, actually. It's
everybody?
Yeah. I think it's possible, of course. Maybe for some it will take more time than for others, but I think it's possible to learn, and you need to stay calm. That's if you really stress or easily get stressed, then it's not it's no easy job, let's say it like that. But I really like it. You have a lot of your customer contact, so that's what I like, having those calls. I have a lot of calls, but I don't mind. So doing those workshops also very interesting. And you also have close contact, of course, with the development team within the agency, and that's actually, you really feel like working as a team. You experience the benefits of doing that. So I really like my role in Dignify at this point.
I think it's very broad in a sense as well.
Yeah.
You come into contact with a lot of people,
Yeah.
but it's not an easy role. So I think you can you can learn a lot of things, or you can teach somebody a lot of things. But there are some, key traits about you that I feel like you need to possess, and it's something you see in people, right? Taking ownership of something.
Yeah.
You can learn that, but some people just come as natural
Yeah.
leaders, or somebody who really wants to take initiative, and that's what I already saw with you years ago. And if you see now, it's you've grown immensely in that role. So we're very happy to have you.
Thank you. It's nice to hear. I'm also very happy working at Dignify. It's really a good company to work. So
and we're looking for new people.
Yeah, indeed.
So if you're listening, and today is February 16th.
Yeah.
So just to make sure that by the time you see this, maybe the vacancy is closed already. We're looking for 2 people. So a Selgent Marketing Cloud developer. So if you're somebody with a technical background, you're into web development, give us a shout. And we're looking also for a Salesforce Marketing Cloud developer. So if you have experience with one of those tools, reach out. So we'll put the email address here somewhere. Sarah will fix it. So that was finally got to put this in. So I got to plug the ad in. With that, thank you, Martijn. Thank you for joining us. It was good to see you again, because of course we don't see each other every day anymore, sadly, but that's going to change. So with that, I want to thank Martijn. I want to thank you, the audience, for watching and listening. I hope you enjoyed the 2nd episode of our marketing automation conversation series. We'll be back in a few weeks with a new guest. But in the meantime, if you have any questions for Martijn about anything he talked about today, or maybe what it's like being a project manager in this type of environment, feel free to reach out if you have any questions for me, or any questions in general about marketing automation that you would like us to talk about in the next episode. The email address will be here somewhere. Sarah, you know what to do.
Great.
So with that, I want to say thank you and see you next time.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.